Now, lifeadministration.com presents the Life Administration Podcast. Here are your hosts, Leslie Loftus and Ryan Talon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Life Administration Podcast. My name is Ryan Talon, and with me, as always,
Leslie Loftus. Hello, everybody.
Hello. Oh, boy, it's hot today.
It is hot. It's mid-July, Houston.
We're in it.
Somebody at the Chronicle, I think, was talking about making Houston moist t-shirts.
I hate that word.
I hate the word. I hate the sentiment. And also because it's really hot. I mean, like right now, if you go outside, you poach, because the humidity is so high, it's really like kind of being in poaching liquid. So it's accurate. Like there's a reason I think Houstonians might hate the word moist because it feels like a July afternoon when there's no breeze.
Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah, and everything sticks to you.
And can I just tell you that since we shut that fan off, I honestly am cooler right away. We have just discovered that the fan in the studio is going reverse, so it's sucking up the cool. I got to get that sorted. Very good for the winter, not very good for the summer.
Not very good for the summer.
Yikes.
Yes, and we don't see a switch on it that we can automatic, so we just shut it off.
Yeah, shut it off.
Yeah.
And you have a new addition to the family.
My sanity is questionable. Yes, I do. So, longtime listeners know that we have 3 dogs, and we don't have small dogs either. We have a Border Collie mix. We have a giant Australian Shepherd, an 80-pound Australian Shepherd, and an Irish Wolfhound. On July the 4th, my son was out with a friend. They were running errands because we were just having a few people over for swimming on July the 4th. They went to go get hamburger buns or something like that, and they found a stray husky mix, who is the sweetest. I mean, we took her to the boys actually did this. They all by themselves, they went ahead and they took her to the vet. They got a preliminary health assessment and they scanned for a chip. They went driving around looking for signs, and another person in the neighborhood, posted it on Nextdoor for that area. No hits, and she's now started to pack up around here, so she's kind of got her thing. We have a 4th dog. I have 4 children and 4 dogs. And better yet, she's a husky, so she talks. It's really, really cute, by the way. She's absolutely adorable.
She is super cute.
She's super cute. Huskies are vocal.
Huskies are vocal.
They're very vocal.
And they are hairy.
Oh, goodness. I got the Wolfhound and the Shepherd. I'm kind of like, hair schmare. Just another gray dog.
What's another 25% increase in dog hair? I mean, come on. We're all good.
At this point, it's just, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
whatever.
But anyway, if it does, not last week's episode, but the week before that, Ryan said it was not fun. We usually get lucky on how many interruptions we have dog-wise. That week it was bad. So now we have, Ryan's like, you added another dog. Really?
Yep.
I'm glad she's cute, but you added another dog. And better yet, a dog who talks. Thanks, Les.
Yeah,
Thanks.
no, it's good. It's good. But I'm going to strike that from the record because if you're watching on YouTube, look at these beautiful curtains. And it doesn't look like half of the lens is blown out. Oh my goodness. Okay. Thank you, Cynthia.
So yes, we have, so the studio that we're in is actually a converted part of our attic. Mm-hmm. And,
as most studios are.
Oh, that's true. Attic or basement. Yep. Yeah, really. Maybe a closet. But months ago or actually a year ago when we were starting, well, at first we had Sean here, who's, master with camera and stuff like that. And he just worked around the windows and he's really good at that. And then he taught Ryan how to do it with one camera. But last week, Ryan's like, Les, are we ever going to get, I totally forgot about because they had stopped complaining about the light issue and I thought it was settled. And then it wasn't on my to-do list. So it just fell away. Because if it's not on my to-do list, it doesn't really happen.
It's like tooth pain. At some point you just go, you know what? I got tooth pain. I'm just dealing with it. There's nothing I can do anymore.
There you go. Well, that was you. And I just forgot about it. So my assistant is actually quite an accomplished seamstress. And I'm like, I need some real simple curtains for the attic, real fast. Yeah, she did it in a week.
Yep, they look great.
Perfect. They look great, and you were happy about the lack of blowout light or whatever it's called.
Yeah. No, it looked. I mean, right when I framed the shot up, it was instantly. Happy. I mean, I didn't even frame the shot up. I could already see the color balance as I was coming up. I was like, oh my Lord, this is going to be so much easier to manage. So very, very exciting.
I'm glad. Cynthia, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cynthia's my PA.
And we'll have Cynthia on in the foreseeable future.
Yes. Actually, because we're going to do an episode on basic sewing. And
it's in the show notes. It's going to happen.
Exactly. And one of the things that I've always regretted is that I didn't know how to do basic things like hemming pants.
Right.
I can't buy off the rack. I'm short, and inability to hem pants has been kind of a pain for a long time. So Cynthia does know how to do all of that stuff. So she's going to talk to us about, basic equipment and what skills you need and stuff like that.
Right.
Where to get them.
And even for guys too, don't think that
absolutely.
Like, you gotta know.
Absolutely.
But that's in the future.
Yep.
Today we're back in the kitchen. Back in the kitchen, right? So today you owe me a Coke, right? And it's like the 50s called. They want their terminology back. Okay. Sorry. Segue. Following recipes, preparing to cook. This is really just about getting our kitchens ready to rock and roll.
Right.
You got to be
we've done basic kitchen.
Yep.
Basic kitchen. So taught you, talked through the basic equipment that you need, how to, we've done menu planning, so how to plan a menu, how to do the grocery list and stuff like that from your menu, etc. So now this is okay. You've gone to the store, you've gotten all the stuff, you've bought the basic kitchen equipment. How do you actually follow a recipe and cook? I mean, it's kind of the thing that if you haven't really done it, and watching cooking shows doesn't necessarily count because they talk you through the recipe. It's not like they show you a recipe and break it down and say, hey, this is how it's done.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
No,
I feel a 30-second commercial break of some embarrassing story of Ryan's.
Got me.
Yeah.
No, so for me, here has been the issue when trying to follow recipes. So especially okay, you know what? This is a call to action for all of the food bloggers out there.
Oh my gosh. Are you going to go? This is actually one of my riffs. I know where you're going. Go.
When I go and click on your recipe, do not make me scroll for 9 hours to get to the recipe. It's always like, there's always so much fluff before we actually get to this is how you do the recipe. And it drives me bananas.
It was about 6 weeks ago that I first encountered, because I actually still, Gen Xer, and go both ways, technology and non-technology. So I'd still tend to use books for my recipes, old school.
Yep.
So I had not really paid attention to the fact food bloggers do. They like to put a story up, because they want to tell the story and a narrative and everything. So, oh gosh, the first time I had Grandma Dell's chili, and they go through the whole thing and how it made them feel. I had no idea how anxious people were getting, because if you started to read the recipe, you just want to get to the recipe. Apparently the good food bloggers, the ones that love you, have a jump to recipe button. So you can hear the story or you can read the story if you want, because sometimes, sometimes we do want a happy story about, oh, this was the first time I had Grandma's chili, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you do. Sometimes you just want to follow the darn recipe. But one of those things, how sometimes when you find something, like let's say you get a beagle and you've never really noticed beagles before, but now you get a beagle and suddenly everybody and their dog is a beagle.
Yeah.
Oh, see what I did there?
I like that.
Exactly. It's kind of as soon as somebody pointed out to me the whole story and the recipe thing, I was like, there was an article about it. There were 2 Facebook posts about it. People had really serious feelings about the stories in front of recipe blog posts.
Listen, I'm cool.
Mm-hmm.
Write the story. You've heard me say this. Important information needs to be above the fold, right? So that's the old term for newspapers that you would everything that used the important stuff needs to be on top. Now, I don't even want the jump to recipe button.
You want the recipe up front, and then if you want to hear the story, you want to see it at the bottom.
Give me 3 sentences. This is where the recipe came from. This is what it means to me. I'd love to share more with you, but let's get on to the recipe. And then if you want to talk about Grandma Sue's chili or whatever, put it at the bottom. And from an advertising, and here's the thing that blows my mind. From an advertising standpoint, because I understand clicks and you got to get the money and all that sort of, it doesn't matter at all where you put that story. So, it's like, I think that
except for the fact that you're running people off. But there was, back when blogging was new, there was a whole lot about, it was very content is king. Well, it's still content is king, but we had a different idea about what we were still experimenting, had a different idea about what content was. And content was relational stories.
Yeah.
Right. We've moved beyond that now, especially in recipe. No, I want to know actually how to fix it. The same thing goes for life hacks or, how to fix this, how to fix a buttonhole. Don't tell me the story about the first time you needed to fix a buttonhole. Tell me how to fix a buttonhole. And by the way, I got a funny about that if you want to read it,
Anyway, so that's that. You know what? I hope there are food bloggers listening, and we mean no ill intent.
Absolutely not. This is just good advice, but there seem to be some intense feelings around whether or not the recipe I've gone in. I want to find lobster mac and cheese, and I have a recipe for and I have to scroll to get it. Yeah, no.
It should not take me as long to make the recipe as it does to scroll and find the recipe. Okay. All right. So I don't want to be those guys. So we're going to cut it there and we're going to say, all right, here we go. Step 1, preparing to cook. Take it away.
All right. Well, first of all, you need to read the recipes and
after you scroll. No, I'm just
kidding. Whether you read your recipes online or in a book or on your grandma's old index cards, because that's the thing, they used to come in the little boxes and then you would write them out. I never got around to doing that. And so we have actually a binder that's full of printed off recipes. Anyway, however you do it, read through before you're going to cook anything, read through the recipe, plan the timing. And when planning the timing, we're talking about think through when to preset the oven. There's a lot of steps that go into the recipe. And if you're cooking a meal and so you're dealing with multiple recipes, then you need to think through the timing of planning the longest item first. The turkey takes 4 hours to cook, or I'm just...
Right. Turkeys don't take 4 hours to cook.
No, that would be a bad turkey. Turkeys take longer to cook than, say, mashed potatoes. So you kind of need to, this item needs 2 hours. This item needs 1 hour and 30 minutes. And you learn how to slide things in. But just write it down right now. We're not actually, don't read the recipe and start cooking. Right?
No.
This is a measure twice, cut once kind of thing. Okay, so you've read through the recipe. You have a general idea of what's going to go on. Now you need to go ahead and tidy. This is my own thing. Tidy your prep space. So tidy your kitchen, which means if you've got dirty dishes still drying or not dirty, if you've got dirty dishes waiting to be washed and you have clean dishes that are drying and waiting to be put away, go ahead and finish that task.
Yep, get it clear.
Get it clear. You don't need to start clean. Don't sweep the floor and all that kind of stuff, but start tidy being like stuff not cluttering around and everything else. Clean being the surface is actually free of smudge. Now, the area that you're actually going to work in doing the food prep, that does need to be cleaned. So that's part of your tidying process, is actually cleaning your specific workspace. Okay. Now, get out the equipment that you're going to need for this recipe, the pans or the graters, whatever it is that you need, and make sure that they're all working order. Now, on all of this stuff, I'm sounding like, all we've done so far is read the recipe and do some cleaning. And you're like, oh my gosh, why am I ever going to do this kind of cooking? Because it takes so much time to do we haven't even pulled the ingredients out of the pantry yet, right?
Cooking's the fast part though.
Partially, but also this stuff this is habit building stuff.
Yeah.
Like, giving the recipe a skim. Also, if you get your kitchen kind of on a rhythm, like when we talk in basic kitchen, the first episode, getting your kitchen on a rhythm. Well, tidying up before you cook is really a matter of putting away those few things that are still drying on the drying board, and washing the coffee cup from breakfast or whatever. It's not, somebody's flinching. But once you get into a rhythm and once you're starting to do this and using your kitchen on a regular basis, this stuff is not nearly as time consuming as it will be the first few times you do it.
Yeah.
The first few times you do it, this sounds really tedious. And it's going to feel a little tedious too. But anyway, So you get your equipment out and confirm that, it's clean, that you've got it in working order and stuff like that. Okay. Now do your mise en place. Okay. I'm going to explain.
I'm going to explain.
Yes. His eyebrows are going way up. Lots of culinary terms, cooking terms are French because, well, the French are known for their cooking. Anyway, mise en place is for everything in its place. And for any cooking show that you've watched, you've seen mise en place in action. It is not just for cooking shows that they go through and they chop up everything beforehand. So when the celebrity chef is getting ready to do their cooking, and they already have all of the ingredients measured out and prepped in they're called prep bowls, or pinch bowls for the smaller things. That's mise en place. So you go ahead and you prep all your ingredients. So if I'm going to need a 1/4 cup of oil, I get out the 1/4 cup of oil. If I need to have the carrots julienne chopped, I'm going to go ahead and julienne the carrots. So all of the things that I need to do the actual cooking, I prep them all beforehand. And it doesn't matter how many things I'm cooking. If I'm doing green beans and turkey and mashed potatoes, sorry, for some reason it's July and I'm thinking Thanksgiving, no idea why. Actually, I do know why, because I got teased by my family the first time I actually used this process, because I had a timeline that went, backwards, like T-4 hours, do this, that, and the other.
Like a space shuttle launch, T-4 hours.
Yeah, no, it was seriously like a space shuttle. That's how I did. And then the turkey did not cooperate. The turkey took longer to cook. And
As it does.
Yep. And my family teased me. So that's why when I'm thinking through this, I'm going back to my first experience of using this process, and it was a Thanksgiving dinner. Anyway, get all of your stuff ready beforehand. Here's where mise en place really comes in handy. It's a great way to get other people involved. So like if you've got kids in the house, okay, I want you to peel the potatoes. I want you to cut the cut the carrots or whatever. So you can get other people involved, and you can clean as you go. But hold on to clean as you go and just a second. I'm sorry. I'm jumping around a bit.
That's okay.
That's okay. I'm allowed to jump around.
You can jump around. People can rewind. It's fine.
Okay. When you're doing your mise en place, when you're doing all of your cutting and stuff like that, I kind of have a process. I go from cleanest thing to messiest thing. I go from driest thing to wettest thing, from most neutral spelling to pungent thing. So for instance, I would prep and cut carrots before I would do tomatoes and onions. Because tomatoes, when you cut them, they throw off a lot of liquid, and onions, when you cut them, obviously, you cry. And
this is good advice. I've never even considered that before. That's right. Good.
No, it's dry to wet,
neutral to stinky,
cleanest to messiest, neutral to stinky. Yeah. And cool. Just kind of, it just kind of mentally gets, and it makes it a little easier as you're going along, because I can cut the carrots and then I can cut the potatoes on the same board as the carrots without having to worry about cleaning it up. Whereas if I cut the tomatoes first, well, then I got tomato spooge all over the place. And then you got to wash the board. Right.
So get another one.
With a little bit of experience, you just kind of start to learn these, and you will stop thinking about these things. Like this is one of the reasons if I seem a little bit bouncy around, have you ever gone through and you try to teach somebody a skill that, like trying to teach somebody how to sit down in a chair, something that you have long since forgotten to think about because you just do it? Oh, you're a music teacher.
Every day.
You go through that every day. What am I talking about? Yeah, you know exactly what it is. Right. This process now is so thoughtless to me that I'm okay. Oh yeah, that's right. I do the same thing whenever I have to teach swimming. I have to teach somebody butterfly.
Yeah.
I don't think about how to do butterfly. I do butterfly.
Right.
And, okay, now I got to break it down. Shoot.
Yeah. I had a student the other day, brand new guitar. So, the guitar normally goes like this. I kid you not, right? So you strum with your right hand. She reaches over the neck and strums this way. Like, so there's no, and I was like, okay, guess we got to talk about this.
Yeah, we got to talk about actually how to hold the guitar.
Hold the guitar.
Right. Which means you have to pick it up and you have to hold it a few times yourself to think exactly how do I say this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that's where we are right now. Okay, so now you've got everything chopped, measured out, etc. So you can start to set it out in the order that you'll need it. And once again, watch cooking shows. And this is what the set people do behind the scenes so that when the celebrity chef goes along, they're picking up item and then next item and next item and next item. And then they go over to the range where they're going to cook, and the items that they need for that process are over there. So everything's already in its place. Mise en place.
Yes.
Okay. Here's big one too. It also means at this point, you can pause. You haven't started cooking anything yet. You're not committed. Clean up. You can clean up all your prep process now.
I'm sorry. I was thinking about playing poker, right? And there's a term in poker where you say you're pot committed. And I almost said like, oh, it's like being pot committed because you started cooking. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, everyone. Dad joke. Yeah.
That was good.
No, it wasn't. Let's move on.
Excellent. Good.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So you've got all your stuff ready. You've got it placed out. Now you do a round of cooking. So all of the prep vessels and everything else, go ahead and get those washed and draining on the drain or drying on the drain board, or, get the flour put away, the oil put away, throw away the scraps of, the tops of the tomatoes and the bell peppers and whatever
the garbage.
else. The garbage.
The garbage.
Okay. That's right. Boston boy. Go ahead and get that out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. Then I usually like to, at this, also before I start cooking, to pull out how I'm going to serve. So what am I going to serve? What platter am I going to serve the meal on? What dishes am I going to use? I will at least set them out. So at some point while I'm cooking, I can call a child over to say, hey, set the table, or hey, hand me that platter for the steaks, or whatever it is. And then you've got a couple of different styles that you can serve things. So there's, and I'm just going to say these because it's one of those, oh, well, I never thought that was the name for it or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So buffet style, you've gone to a buffet or whatever, but at home you put the food on the counter and you put the plates next to the food, and the diners come along and they serve themselves from the stuff that you have on the counter.
My favorite style, by the way.
That's your favorite style.
Well, that way I don't get embarrassed when I ask for thirds or fourths. Like I just I got to get up and get a glass of water and come back with another turkey leg or something. You know what I mean? That's my favorite. No one can see my eating shame.
There you go. Slightly modified from that is family style, which is basically the same thing as buffet style, except the communal dishes of the food are stuck on the table and then you pass them around.
Not a fan.
Honestly, I'm kind of not a fan either. I mean, it's a very minor difference from buffet, but I have a counter right next to our kitchen table, and I am much bigger about putting the food on that counter and letting everybody serve, and then we all sit down together.
So my 2 cents here are family style equals more dishes.
It should equal the same amount of dishes, but now family style also you need to preset the table. So it's more time.
Because when I think of family style, like if I have a casserole per se, that baby's coming just like out of the casserole dish. Like here you go, like go get it, right? No problem. If it's family style, the casserole, sometimes the dish is too big for the table. You know what I mean?
And so then I
got to use another plate, and then people, right? So now I got more plates. So that
okay, I totally see that point. Yes. If family style flirts with, I need to use a different vessel. Yep. Whereas buffet style is I have pulled the glass.
Yep.
Casserole dish out of the oven. I put a trivet on my counter and I've set it there and
given
you a
spatula,
big spoon.
Go nuts.
For it. Go for it. The other one, and we use these sometimes for dinner parties, you've been plated. So the food gets plated in the kitchen. So with the full, and then it's brought out. So anytime you've been to some sort of ballroom thing, or sometimes weddings will be plated, everything else. Right. So, and then people come around and they put the plate in front of you that is already full of food, and it's honestly, at home, for family dinners, I almost never do, unless I'm serving like chili.
Yeah.
Or like a stew or something like that.
That's really easy too, right?
Then we just go over to the stove and I just, spoon the stew into the bowls and start to hand them out to the chili. To the children.
The children's chili.
That's actually kind of tongue twister.
And there is, I think there is a matter of formality. So, right, if you're serving dinner, know your audience in the sense of, it's not always appropriate to have buffet style depending on who you have coming over and that sort of thing. Right. So just keep that in mind as you're doing this and your different serving styles. But I would say as a general in my mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, because Lord knows I am often, but like, buffet style, hey, it's kids, it's family, it's whatever, family style. Maybe that's more of a family kind of gathering. It's a big table. Everyone's sitting around. We're passing these plates. We're laughing. We're having a good time. And then plated, maybe that's like boss coming over for dinner, that sort of thing. So, know your audience.
Also, when you're dealing with family style or buffet style, some of your house I happen to have a counter that's right next to our kitchen table. So it's really easy for me to do it sounds like you do too. So buffet is just kind of an easy kind of cut a few steps off of the family style version, right?
Exactly. And less dishes.
Right. But some houses, apartments, living spaces might not be set up that way. And so don't go trying to retrofit some sort of buffet in because we happen to say that's slightly easier. Yeah, it's only easier if your house already does that.
Yeah. Or go get one of those little mobile island things. Like if you don't have one, they're worth their weight in gold. They're absolutely amazing. It just gives you more storage, a place to do exactly what we're talking about. Cool. Like $50, So this is a good transition. Here's the thing about cooking, and it is with any skill. Right. You got to keep doing it. Oh, right. Yes. So what I have found in the past is if I get a recipe and it comes out really well, let's say, right? Lauren absolutely loves it, blah, 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 for the 2 times a year that I cook. She's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I think back and I go, yeah, but man, that was a lot of work. And it's because I didn't know the ins and the outs of the recipe, right?
Absolutely. The first time you do a recipe takes 2 to 3 times as long as the 5th time you do it.
And you just don't have that rhythm, like we talk about, that cadence of being able to just go through. Yep, I do this, I do this, I do this. And you have the recipe more as like a quick glance. Right. Yep, cool, got it, moving on. Or you're not going step by step by step.
Ryan, that's one of the reasons we do this show about life administration, because there's so much in life administration, recipes just being a prime example, that are exactly like this. None of this stuff is very difficult, but we have mistaken that not very difficult for meaning, oh, it's easy and it's simple, when in fact they're skills with lots of pieces and stuff. They don't take that long to learn, but they need some repetition and practice. And then yes, once you get good at chicken piccata, you don't really need to follow the recipe that much anymore. You can just kind of do it. Yeah. You talked about this once in one of our other kitchen episodes of the 30, all of the 30-minute shows, the 30-minute meal shows. Okay. Yeah. They're kind of a bit of a bait and switch because yes, they are 30-minute meals. Once you already have your kitchen stocked, once you kind of already have your basic knife skills and your basic cooking skills down, then yes, you can do that, baked ziti in 30 minutes. No problem. Yep. While you are still learning those skills, while you are still learning how to say brown the Italian sausage, your 30-minute meal is going to take you 1 hour and 10 minutes.
Guaranteed.
And that's before we can't factor in cleanup time because, by the way, all of this stuff that I've just talked about trying to, we talked about at the very beginning about trying to time things, that comes with practice. Like advanced home cooking is when you can get everything on the table in a full meal at the same time at the temperature it's supposed to be served at.
Right. I'm not there yet.
It's hard.
It's hard to do.
It's hard to do. Once you can do it kind of almost without thinking. Like once you figure out how to do it and also just get a feel for this is how quick my oven cooks and this is how, then you can do it without thinking about it. That's why we talk about these details and we talk about these little things because you need to know how these things work together to be able to get to that goal.
The thing that happens to me is so here's when I admit defeat, right? It's when something comes out and then to heat it back up, you have to put it in the microwave to heat it back up. Right. I mean, it is for me when you're at because that's like the level that I'm at, whereas like, I think for the most part, I can get things within let's say 10 minutes. Right.
But for mashed potatoes,
you took the words right out of my mouth. If those bad boys come out early, they're going in the microwave and they are not going to be as good as if they just came out right away. So
totally.
Super frustrating. And like, I think of the example of like cooking steak now, like I've cooked steak enough times in my life that I know if you want it rare, if you want it medium, how long to cook it for, when to flip it, the whole deal, how to season it. I don't need a recipe. I know exactly what I'm doing.
You can almost glance at it and then just push on the top a little bit and you're like, okay, and flip, no flip, whatever.
Cool, right. And the same kind of thing when it comes to.
Whereas before you used to have to kind of cut it open. Let me see.
No. But and the same thing of when you're making pizza, you look at it, it's like, well, the crust has to be golden brown. That's when you want to pull it out, right? And
carry over.
Right, exactly. So and that's the thing, right? You don't know that until you pull it out and you're like, it looks golden brown, but then it's still turning brown, right? That kind of thing. So
and when baked goods carry over is when the residual heat of whatever you're cooking continues to cook the item.
Right.
And in baked goods in particular, depending on how hot carryover can happen, you can go from perfectly done to burnt in about 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Which of course is the time that it takes to answer a text or, let me just, go over here and clean off this spoon or what. It happens real fast.
And then
and practice is the way out of it.
Yes. Cause then the next time what will happen inevitably is that you'll pull it out and it won't be done yet. Right. So then the third time you sort of kind of figure out exactly where it's going to be. So anyway, all of that to say, you just got to keep doing it. If it comes out terrible, if it comes out burnt, undercooked, whatever, keep on keeping on because you will. And even from an economic standpoint, the money that you can save by cooking dinner for your family is astronomical
compared to eating out.
To eating out. I mean, you can get.
Or even eating, pre-prepped.
Yeah. Right. I mean, if you go to the grocery store and they do it now where they have the meals are all prepackaged and it's like, cool, here's a dinner for two and it's $19.95 and you're like, yo, I can make literally twice the amount of this if it wasn't
without as much garbage.
Yeah.
Without because the prepackaging.
But the trick is what they're doing is they're doing mise en place. They're giving it to you. This is how much you need.
You're paying for the life administration cost because it took somebody a matter of time, both in learning their own expertise so they can do it quicker and the time to actually prep it. You're paying for their prep time.
Yeah.
So, and we're telling you it's actually, you're going to do it wrong a little bit. There is a bit of a learning curve, but the learning curve is not that long.
No, it's not that long. It's not like some of the other things that we say. Yeah.
It's not like learning a guitar.
Not at all.
Nope.
All right. So we talked about recipes. Keep doing it. Now we're going to use the recipe.
We're going to use the recipe.
We're using the recipe.
Okay. And I think I'm going to talk through this one instead of because I've got a few recipe books here, but not everybody's watching on YouTube.
No.
So recipes come with some specific component parts. Okay. Almost always they start with the ingredient list. And they'll have, so 1 cup of sugar or whatever. They will then next have the instructions of how you put all of this stuff together. And then down at the bottom, they will probably have yield, which is, this serves 12, whatever. This serves 4. And sometimes they might, somewhere in here, maybe up with the ingredients, or whatever, they might have an equipment list, cast iron skillets, air fryer, 2
oven
beakers. Right. Exactly. But they don't always have an equipment list. Usually you kind of have to read through the instructions to figure out what equipment you need, which is, by the way, back to the first thing when I said prep. Before you start prepping anything, read through the recipe. The second or third time you do that recipe, skim through the recipe so that you can go ahead and get everything. So, oh gosh, I haven't started cooking and then just found out that the bowl that I need to prep that is still dirty in the dishwasher and now I have to spend No. Get it done.
Yep.
Right. But like I said, you probably need to go through the instructions to figure out what items you need to use. Okay. Use the ingredients list, obviously, to make your shopping list. And then, you've already gone shopping when we're talking about it at this point. And then to pull the stuff out for your mise en place. So I usually go through the ingredients list and before I actually even start cutting anything, I get it all out on the counter. So the cinnamon sticks that I need, the allspice, the oil, the brown sugar, whatever it is, I just go ahead and pull it out so it's all there. So I'm not going back and forth to the pantry or the refrigerator all the time.
That's where mistakes happen.
Right.
That's when your timings get messed off because cooking is really, like we said, it's managing time.
Right.
And when you go and I ran out of sugar and the bag is not open and I got to go open the bag and then I got to go measure it out.
And then I forgot about something else.
My timer's going off and that's where it happens. So like, 100% agree.
If you notice, we're bundling things into specific. So we're getting categories of tasks done in clumps.
Yep.
Right. So pull all of the ingredients out that you need and then pull out your knife and your cutting board and everything else that you need for the mise en place and start doing your chopping. As we said before, do your, neutral to pungent, clean to messy, dry to wet, that's when you're thinking through that. Yield is what you're doing when use your yield for figuring out, okay, you're a family of 6 and the recipe says it calls for 4. All right. This is also an advanced home cooking skill. It's pretty easy to have a recipe. It's pretty easy to double a recipe. It's a little harder to 1.5 it. You kind of have to just
stay away from fractions, y'all.
Yeah. If you're cooking for 6 and the recipe says 4 and you're a beginner cook, honestly, I might recommend that when you're originally figuring out your menu for whatever, go find something that will cook for 6 or that will cook for 3 that you can double.
Yep.
Right? As you get better in the kitchen, then you can start to eyeball, or especially let's say it's a pasta dish that says it serves 4. Add more pasta.
Right.
Right. You'll have a little bit less sauce or whatever, and maybe you just add a little bit more tomatoes or add an extra half can of tomatoes or what. Like some things are relatively easy to finesse on the yield. But finessing gets easier as you get more experience.
Let me tell you that we double everything at my house because I know there's a debate out there, leftovers, no leftovers, the whole, like we're a leftover house. Okay.
They're a family of 3. I'm getting ready to offer a rebuttal to that. Yeah. But anyway,
I like family of 4 currently.
Oh, that's right. I'm sitting there looking at you. Do you have news that you haven't told me? No. No, he has his his sister-in-law living with him.
For us, so we like to cook double. And everyone knows that I'll eat it too.
This is now we're getting the secret of why he likes the buffet, so he can hide the fact that he's.
All these points are coming together all of a sudden. It's like the shame eating, like the leftovers. 12:30 at night, I can go grab a snack. Okay, enough of that. But anyway, I again, this is just to solidify the point. Make more than you think, and you can always give it to a neighbor. You can always give it to, you know what I mean? You can just do something sweet with it. So don't mess around with fractions, man. No, they'll beat you up. Beat you up.
Yep. And definitely, I will say always make over. Ever since we moved into a family of 6 territory rather than family of 4, honestly, I usually try to hit it right on because if I'm going to double the recipe, well, now I'm cooking for 12 and suddenly I've got a lot of food to store. And
I'll allow it.
Right. But if I'm only cooking just over our 6, well, then I don't necessarily have enough food to even be a side for the next meal. Right. So it kind of gets. Larger families, you tend to cook for what you actually need.
Yep.
Unless I'm doing like a pot of chili. But even then, the leftover chili or stew that I have is enough for about 2 servings, which doesn't even feed 2 of us for lunch.
Right. Got it.
Right.
Got it.
So again, things to think about later on. But if you're a family of 4 or under, what Ryan said.
Yep.
Cook over, freeze it. Absolutely.
And having's pretty easy too. Having is
simple.
Pretty
easy.
You can
easy.
have.
Yep.
Prep time helps with the timing.
Yes. Okay. So the prep time at the end of the recipe will tell you. So rank them in longest to shortest order. And that's going to kind of be how, as we talked a minute ago, that's kind of your timeline for cooking. Okay. Again, as you get more skill, you'll be able to do the timeline with less thinking about it. When you're first learning, write it down. I'm going to put this in the oven at 1240. I'm going to put this in the pot at 1250, whatever, kind of retrofit it back. And this is another reason you want to do mise en place, because now you don't have any prep things in the middle. You can actually go through and just pay attention to the order and the timing of your cooking rather than, oh, shoot, I forgot to chop the bell peppers.
Right.
And
Definitely.
suddenly you have a 3-minute window, and you didn't realize that actually it takes a few minutes to chop the bell peppers. So your 3-minute window has now been taken up with the entire washing, drying, chopping. Oh shoot! Now that's burning.
Yep.
Right. That's why we do mise en place.
Definitely. And this might be just a me thing, but Alexa in our house is used to time out cooking. Honestly.
Oh, yeah. I use my watch.
Yep.
My iWatch is used for that. But yeah.
Yeah. So
constantly.
this idea of I put item A in at 12:15, I put item B in at 12:17. Like, no.
You would set Alexa reminders.
Yeah,
okay,
just
totally. Granted.
Just do that because I have mixed that up, or write it down. But that's what made me think about it, is that when you said write it down, because pre Alexa days, that's what I would do.
Right.
And now I'm so thankful, and I think that my Alexa thinks the only thing that she can do is count down.
Right. Honestly, we don't use our smart devices for nearly as much as they wanted us to. The functionality is just not that. They're glorified kitchen timers right now, and radios.
And love it. And love them for it.
Totally do. Yeah. But yeah. One advantage I will say to writing something down, though, is then you can glance at it and you can just look.
Yep.
It's kind of like being, on your map app when you can say, I want an overview of the route.
Yep.
Right. If you've written it down, if you've just told Alexa, hey, Alexa, tell me at 12:40 to put the turkey in, you can't see that.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah. So also that kind of depends on how complicated the meal is that you're cooking. If you're just making a pot of stew, goodness gracious, give the instructions to Alexa. If you're trying to put on your first big family turkey dinner, you want it written out at T-minus 4 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. When you
if your family goes off and teases you for it.
I feel like you're still working through something there.
It was traumatic for me because I thought I was being so organized and everything else. And my dad was he thought it was hysterical that the turkey did not. He's like, turkey's not following your plans, is it? I'm like, sticking my tongue out at him. Right.
Be quiet, eat the food.
Exactly. Hush. All right. Before you start cooking, now you've done all your recipe stuff. Before you start cooking, read through the recipe again. Or not necessarily the recipe, at least the instructions.
Yep.
Oh, shoot, I was supposed to fold those eggs in. Folding is a specific term for mixing stuff. There's mixing things, there's folding things, there's beating things. Once again, as you learn more cooking stuff, I'll get to another tip at the end. As you learn more cooking stuff, these terms I'll say fold the eggs in, and you're like, okay, got it. But it's amazing how little tiny mistakes like, oh, shoot, I added that to it before I added that to it. Sometimes that stuff, especially if you're baking, makes a difference.
Maybe the first time I made pasta, I put the pasta in without boiling the water. I just it's as simple as that. But then, of course, it was all like gooey and sticky and disgusting, but that's what we're talking about. Bring the water to the boil, then add the pasta. That's a simple oversimplification of it, but that's, I think, what we're trying to drive home.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. So you read through the instructions one last time to just kind of, so you have a fresh overview before you actually start to cook. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then my last one about recipes is if you were a new chef, if you're new to cooking, follow the recipe to a T. Do the recipe verbatim 2 or 3 times before your 4th time. You know what? I'd really like it. Actually, I think it might do better if I did this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Be tight with it first.
Yeah, for sure. And I think because we all have different tastes, right? Mm-hmm. So I like since we're talking about pasta, when Lauren makes spaghetti sauce, I like some sweetness in my sauce. Right. So I'm like, girl, you better put some sugar in there. You know what I'm saying? And then, of course, when I have spaghetti at someone else's house, it's like someone squeezed a lemon in my mouth. You know what I mean? Like, God, no. I like it sweet. Right. So after years of marriage, now we have sweet sauce or whatever. Or I like it a little bit lighter, I like it a little creamier. Some people like a really robust, dark tomato. It's like, no. Right. So we all have different tastes.
Yep.
And you get to, and that's one of the cool things about cooking is it is an art form actually that, you know, just because in equating it to a G chord, if I'm on the guitar and I strum a G chord, like, cool, I can show anyone how to strum a G chord, but I can arpeggiate it. I can play it backwards. I can invert it. I can play it in 3 different positions. Right. Yep. So there's a lot to it. And going back to that advice of like, just keep on trucking.
Right.
You know? Go ahead.
In the Basic Kitchen, the original Basic Kitchen episode, which is like episode 5 or 6, something. It's early.
Yep.
I have some links to some of the best books for following these kinds of recipes. That are also my favorite are the Cook's Illustrated books, because they'll go through and they'll explain. Okay, you know what? Tomato sauce. Here's the master recipe for basic tomato sauce. But they will have a essay at the beginning of, but if you like it sweeter, if you like it creamier, if you like it more spicy, then do these things to it.
Yeah.
Right. So this is how you modify it. My favorite one is the one that they have on chocolate chip cookies. They have the master recipe for chocolate chip cookies. And then they have, if you like it cakey, you modify it this way. If you like it thin and crisp, modify it this way. And they do that for tons of things, everything from baked ziti to flan. And it's awesome.
Yep.
It's awesome.
Absolutely.
And I personally, it's one of the books that I have used to teach myself how to cook because, okay, well, I'm going to try it this way this time. Again, when you're just starting out, go ahead and follow the recipe. And I would recommend also following the master recipe if you happen to get the Cook's Illustrated books. Follow the master recipe to a T until you kind of get it down.
Yep.
And then you can do switch offs. Modifications.
Oh, I just had something I wanted to say. I totally lost my train of thought there. I mean,
I'm sorry.
as gone could be. I remember.
Oh, yay!
Okay. One of the things that I found and you touched upon it early is you said fold the eggs. Now listen, there is a lot of terminology that comes into cooking, and I think when you open up, you know, I think like Blanche. Like I went like years of my life before I even knew what Blanche was, right?
Besides a name, right?
Yeah, right.
For an old lady, yeah.
Like just Golden. Thank you for being a friend,
yes.
Right? So just go like if you don't know, just go look up the words,
right?
And
or ask Alexa.
Yeah, and a lot of times what you're gonna find is they're just really like complicated words for really easy things, like folding, for examples, like. Just do it lightly. You know what I mean? Here's just a little motion.
Take your mixing thing and cover the stuff you're mixing in and just keep right. Blanching is sticking it in boiling water for a couple of seconds.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, these are not. So, I mean, the words are there because you don't want to always say, stick it in water for a couple of seconds. Right. But
blanching's much more concise.
Yeah. But it's easy when you look at the recipe for the first time, you go, man, I don't know what this means. I don't know what that means. Just, you know what? Take 3 minutes. And what you'll find is there's nothing to worry about. You don't need to be intimidated by it. Just go ahead and cook a meal.
Once again, unless you're doing you can get up to where cooking is rocket science, but most basic home cooking is not rocket science. Requires just a little bit of knowledge and a little practice and some skill.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And it's kind of fun.
Yep.
And it's tasty.
And I think one other tip that I would say and I'm going through all of my experiences, like you don't need to have the best of everything. So, you know, you can just go get some very basic pot and pans. You can get some basic silverware. You know, you'll go in there, especially like I'm thinking moving into my first apartment, right? Where like, you know, and you're thinking, oh, you go into the store and you see like this set, right? The set, and it's $200 and it's all of these pans and this, that, all different sizes. Okay. No, just get yourself a couple things, you know, if you, and I think that will also sort of, number one, it's easier to store and easier to clean because you're not dealing with like 8,000 pots and pans, just a couple things there. So just relax, you know, find a couple things that you like, get good at making those things. And then you can sort of like step it up one thing at a time. Just start basic.
And that's a good transition too, because when we're now at other tips, final things. And one of the final tips I'll leave you with, one of the best things to learn how to cook and to learn so many of these terms, so many of these skills, they're cheap, they're easy to work with, but they also are good teachers. Eggs.
Eggs.
Learn how to scramble, make omelets, hard boil, soft boil. Oh, so for instance, soft boiling eggs, it's one of the things because you might have heard of 4, 5, or 6 minute egg. So anything beyond a 6 minute egg is going to get into a hard boiled egg. But a soft boiled egg is when, you cut off the top and it's still gooey, and then you put your toast in it. It's actually quite yummy.
Agreed.
Yep. And so 4 minute eggs are runnier than 5 minute eggs. But big, huge one, because it's 4, 5, and 6 minutes eggs are very precise. One, that terminology comes from, or those instructions come basically from the UK, where eggs are kept on the counter. So 4, 5, and 6 minutes are set based upon room temperature eggs. One, big one. Two, if you put them, the water already needs to be boiling, just like with the pasta, because otherwise, if you put it in while the water comes up to boil, then you end up with like an 8 minute egg, and it's somewhere weird between. It's not quite fully a hard boiled egg, but it's definitely not your runny, gooey, yummy, soft boiled egg. But I mean, it's an egg. You blew 30 something cents on, doing the egg wrong. And you can also start over again because the whole thing took less than 10 minutes.
Right.
Eggs are just a wonderful, wonderful, when the omelets or when the crepes are getting a little brown around the edges. Okay, when do I know actually that I can scrape it off the bottom because now it's cooked enough that it doesn't stick?
Yep.
A lot of times we try to move proteins.
We're good.
Yep. A lot of times we try to move proteins too quickly in the pan, and so they kind of stick at the bottom. That's one of the skills that you will learn as you start to cook, is that if it sticks, you probably haven't let it cook long enough, and it hasn't. Eggs teach that lesson. They're awesome at it. And they're cheap, and they're easy, and they're yummy.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's like, if you make a mistake, well, don't worry. There's 11 more for you to use. Like, it's no problem.
Precisely.
It's no problem.
So I would go through egg recipes all the time and just work on your skills with eggs.
I have one final tip. And my wife makes fun of me all the time for it. But preheat your pan.
Absolutely.
Okay. Like, because sometimes there's no such thing as over preheating your pan. Like, when, you set it to the thing and then you let it go. But like, I'll do it for like 7 minutes sometimes, and she'll be like, I just want to make sure, because if you don't, the first one, if you're making something like omelets or whatever, the first one is you're going to get messed up for the subsequent items that you're going to make, because the timing will be off,
right?
Because your pan won't be hot. So make sure your pan is hot and it's preheated. So that way you're like, yep, cool. I'm doing 5 minute eggs, 5 minutes, bang, on to the next one, 5 minutes, right? But then the first time that you do it, well, maybe it took 7 minutes.
Right.
So then your next egg takes not 7 minutes. It takes 5 minutes. And by the way, right before all of the pandemic stuff happened, I went to Denny's and I asked for medium. I'm telling you, Leslie, they could not get medium eggs dialed in. I mean, for anything. It was
medium would be over medium, as in fried eggs. Yeah. So just a little soft in the center.
Yeah, because I want to cut into it, and I want a little bit, right? And I want some ooze for the toast. That's what I want. I want to dip the toast. Anyway, they couldn't get it.
They just couldn't get over medium. So so you're getting when you get solid yolks, which is not what you wanted.
I sent it back 3 times.
Right.
I was like, I don't mean to be a jerk here, y'all, but it's Denny's.
Yeah. You kind of do breakfast food, right?
This is what you do.
I've got one more tip.
Yeah.
With the exception of when you're cooking with eggs, but when you're cooking with any other kind of protein, chicken, fish, whatever, dab it dry before, preheat the pan, but also dab it dry before you stick it in the pan. Because dried protein sears better.
Yes. And you want the sear.
Yummy.
This locks in that flavor, baby.
It does.
That's a 102 course. We'll get to that. We'll get to that later. Anything else in closing for these guys?
I don't think so. Sorry, I was going to try to get the new dog just came in a minute ago, and I was going to try to get her come up and say hello to everybody because being the husky, she's got the pretty gorgeous blue eyes.
She sure does
with the dark gray dog kind of outline eyeliner.
Yes,
she's a pretty girl.
Very, very pretty girl. So, with that being said, if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or Spotify, leave a comment, 5-star rating. Those things help us out quite a bit. They do,
and we appreciate it.
Yes, if you're watching us on YouTube, slap that Slap that. Here I go again with that.
You did it again.
Yep. Slap the like button. Just slap, you can be very aggressive on your device, slap the like button. Again, leave comments. Let us know what you thought. I'd love to hear what things y'all struggle with or what things you had great success with. That'd be really cool to learn. And we could talk about those things later on. Other than that, you can find me on Twitter at Ryan Tailon, RyanTaillon.
Well done.
Yes, I spelled my name correctly.
And I am Leslie Loftus, and you can find me usually on Twitter as well. I am Leslie Loftus TX. Then I also do the show notes and the Pinterest boards on. By the way, on the kitchen Pinterest board for Life Administration, I have some recommended kitchen equipment.
Cool. And check us out on lifeadministration.com. Thank you to all of those that are subscribing. I do have an idea, and I mentioned it last week about just thanking our new subscribers. We're going to do that, and I just got to get the list together. This is really more, but it's been really cool. And I think really what's fun is some pretty fun usernames too, right? You're going to
excellent.
So we'll call people out by their usernames, but thank you to all of those that are doing it, to keeping up to date with the podcast. And I think what we'll be able to do in the probably next week, hopefully, is that every time a new episode posts, we'll be able to shoot you an email just letting you know that there is a new episode available. So if you guys are enjoying the content, please tell somebody. That's the best thing. All the liking and sharing and subscribing in the world is great, but we're in it to help people.
Right.
And so that's the most important thing. So share it with a friend. Other than that, I have been Ryan Tailon.
And I have been Leslie Loftus.
And we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.
Pleasure. Bye.